So tonight's talk is on core values, defining what's important, the power of looking within, and then at the end there'll be a little bit of a summary of all the talks. And you know, when I'm going to do these, I was talking to Doug before we got going, you know, these talks take probably 8 hours. 8 hours at least to try to set up. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's way more work than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought, oh, it's just 4 hours. I can just put a little thing. It'll be easy. It'll take 5 minutes. Man. So I sat down and I had core values, defining what's important, the power of looking within, and I've surrounded myself with books and all my stuff that I've written before, because, you know, that's what I do. I'm like, you know, I got to pull this from here and steal something. And I just couldn't get started. I'm like, I read the topics. I looked over some material. I read the topics again, you know. I sat there. Read the topics, thought, you know, I'm like, where do I start? What order makes the most sense? And I decided, finally, to go in reverse order and start with the power of looking within. So whenever you contemplate the nature of yourself, you're meditating. You're returning to the root of your being, the awareness of being aware. You are the one who sees. Back behind your thoughts lies the center of your consciousness, and this is your true home. How well do you know it? Most of us don't know this part of us ourselves as well as we'd like. The center of our consciousness. You can't hurt it. You can't kill it. It's sometimes referred to as your soul. It's who we really are. We are not our thoughts. Because we were alive before we had language. What did we think before we had language? Is it possible to think without language? And babies think. But how is it possible to think without language? They just go by instinct and feeling. I guess there's no thoughts. What does your fast mind, the mind that narrates your life, do when there's no language? Can you find God without language? There's many books written about who God is, what God is, exactly how we have to behave to find God. We can get so caught up with our version of belief that we actually go out and try to convert others to our way of thinking. In the preview copy of Feed Your Angel that some of you received tonight for attending all 4 of these talks, there's a chapter called The Road to Detroit. It's the last chapter. And what it says is this: Detroit, Motown, Motor City, all the same town. Many ways to get there. Several highways lead into the city. So if you took Highway 75 to Detroit and made it into town, would you then decide that that is the only way to get there? Would you stand on the street corners, go door to door, and proclaim to everyone, I have found Detroit, you must take Highway 75 to get there? The first person to mention they took Highway 53 to Detroit must be confused, right? You know from personal experience that Highway 75 gets you to Detroit. There are signs all over Highway 75. It's written. Detroit 5 miles. Detroit with arrows pointing the way for you. Highway 75 is the way to Detroit. Any rational person can see that. What if someone doesn't take Highway 75 and also decides to call it Motown or Motor City instead of Detroit? Yep, they'd say, we took Highway 96 to Motown yesterday. Well, that's just wrong. Wrong name, wrong highway. They don't know anything about Detroit. Fact is, there's many ways to get to Detroit. No one way better than any other. One might be more convenient for you, depending on where you live, but many roads lead to Detroit. And no matter what you call it, it's still Detroit. Substitute God for Detroit. So many names, so many ways to find God. Why do people think if they found God one way, it's the only way to get there? Why does the name matter? Allah, Jesus, Yeshua, Buddha. What road got you there? The Muslim faith, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism? No matter what you call it, it's still God. And there are many ways to get there. Ram Dass, when he was younger, took LSD as a spiritual quest. He gave some to his guru, more than any one man should have been able to handle. It had no effect on the guru, leading Ram Dass to surmise, when you already live in Detroit, you don't need to take a bus to get there. It is my goal to someday live in Detroit, and I'm willing to consider any and all paths to get there. Why would God want anyone to fail? If the path to God was a multiple choice question, how could the answer be anything but all of the above? I realize that this might not be the prevailing opinion in this country, and probably not in this room. I came to my spirituality much later in life, and this is how I've always seen it. If everyone could stop arguing about the proper way to find God and just realize we're all looking at the same God, but through different pathways and perspectives, we could end a lot of suffering on this planet. I don't see it happening anytime soon. And I'm not trying to change anyone's beliefs. Whatever way you found God is what's right for you. Which brings me back to my original question, though. Could you find God without language? I think we all could if we tried. We return to the root of our being, to the center of our consciousness. The more we look within, the more we contact God, the more we know the feeling of love in our lives. The more we'll define what's truly important to us, and the better our decision-making will become. In the first talk I said, know what really matters in life, and you may find that it is already much closer than you think. So what really matters in your life? What stirs your soul? Where would your heart take you if your head would leave it alone? And if you're drawing a blank, how can we get passion back in your life? We look within. We sit down and define it for you. What are your core values? Do you know? When I was asked that question last year, I had no clue. What are your core values? What's a core value? I think is what my first question was. So if you don't know what you value, how can you live your life in the way that will bring you the most joy? We first need to define it, then go out and get it. And of course, it's a moving target. Today's values and goals and the activities that stir your soul will not be the same forever. They change as you change. So we need to revisit and redefine periodically. If we want our thoughts and activities to line up with what's truly important to us, we must be clear on what our core values are. So last year I took this exercise and I found a list of 230 personal values. So what I did was I took that list and I tried to really take my time. And I just looked at all the values and I put an asterisk by the ones that seemed to resonate with me. Then I took the list of the asterisked ones, Is asterisk a word?
I believe so.
It is now. It wasn't on here. I made it up as I was going here. So I wrote them all down, kind of on theme paper. I grouped the similar ones kind of together. My goal was to just get 5 main core values. And in no way was this as easy as I thought. I'm like, I'll just blow through this. I'll asterisk up. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to take 10 minutes. Took hours. I'm like, yeah, is this, and I put a lot of time into it. And I also wrote why each one was important to me. So in reverse order, this was my final list. I probably dated this. My mom dated everything, so my mom dated her eggs. If you bought 12 eggs, she put the little date on every egg individually and put them in the refrigerator, so you knew which egg was bought. Every piece of mail dated. Peanut butter dated. You don't eat peanut butter from 1987 and 1999. I know that I just tell you that. Take my word for it, and we've already passed 1999, so it's not going to happen. So here's my list of core values from September 4th of 2017. Number 5, in reverse order, passion, and what I wrote about it. Nobody who meets me ever doubts my passion. I'm emotional. I need to do things that make me want to get up in the morning. I need to do things that I'm passionate about. It's my passion that helps me connect with other people. Number 4, prosperity. I'm a little surprised by this one, but I have to feel prosperous. I need to quelch my desires to look elsewhere for satisfaction and realize that no matter where I'm at, I have more than enough. That's a tough one for me. Number 3, significance. I need to feel that what I'm doing is making a difference in the lives of others in some way. Luckily, I've always done things that have made me feel that way for a living, as a musician and a financial advisor. And I think those jobs definitely qualify for that. I see writing and speaking as the last job I'll ever have after my financial advisor career ends. I'll be 70, but whatever. Number 2, health. Working out, eating right, getting enough sleep, very important to me. Everything flows better from a position of health. Yoga would be a great addition here, and I would love to get back into running as well. And number 1, spirituality. To me, everything starts with conscious contact with God. Learning to love myself and see others through loving eyes, and having moments of peace. Which I don't have a lot of moments of peace, really. It's just not how my lifestyle seems to be. I'm kind of okay with that, but I'm okay with having some moments of peace. So spirituality and health were the top 2. Spirituality, health. Do I meditate every day? Nope. Do I run every day? Nope. If I read these values to myself every single day for the rest of my life, would it change the course of my life? I believe it would. Because we become what we think about. What if I read those core values to myself 3 times a day, after every meal, for the rest of my life? Would it have an effect? I think it would. I mean, what's the other option? Without clearly defined values, who runs the show in our head-heart continuum? Our old friend, the lunatic on the couch. Our fast minds will take over and fill us with schedules and deadlines and worry and anxiety and obsessive behaviors that do not and will not serve us. God wants us to stand tall in integrity. God wants us to find ways to love and serve each other. And God wants us to live our lives filled with awe and wonder and gratitude. Have you ever just looked at yourself in the mirror and started crying because things are so great in your life? You're overwhelmed with gratitude? I have. It happens between Lori and I every so often. We'll just look at each other and know. We're just overwhelmed. I mean, how can we have this much? We have been given the keys to unlock the door to whatever projection room we want to open and play the movie we call life in any way we want to write, star, and direct it in the location of our choice. And if we don't star in the movie God wanted to give us, we'll be a bit player in our Fast Minds movie about anxiety and worry. We are given the choice. So if you don't like your movie, you better go get a better director. Slow down. Know God. Know love. Know what's important. And live what's important. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight, and especially those of you who attended all 4 talks. There's 7 of you. I had no idea how hard this would be to prepare for and carry out when I set it up. It was way harder than I expected, and now I know. I did it. I took a someday off my shelf, and I said, I will. And then I actually did it. And you were here to see it. I can't thank you enough for that. So I'd like to do a recap of the things we went over since the series started on January 16th. The first week was the week where I told my story. I front-loaded with the easiest stuff for myself to talk about. It was the power of will, change your life in an instant. And the first thing I started with was the story of the businessman and the fisherman. So I don't know, there was a few of you who weren't here. And I love that story. And it's my thing. So I wanted to read it again. because it's just that cool. To me, anyway. So there was once a businessman who was sitting by the beach in a small Brazilian village. As he sat, he saw a Brazilian fisherman rowing a small boat towards the shore, having caught quite a few big fish. The businessman was impressed and asked the fisherman, "How long does it take you to catch so many fish?" The fisherman replied, "Oh, just a short while." "Then why don't you stay longer at sea and catch even more?" The businessman was astonished. "This is enough to feed my whole family," the fisherman said. The businessman then asked, "So what do you do for the rest of the day?" The fisherman replied, "Well, I usually wake up early in the morning. I go out to sea, I catch a few fish, then I go back and play with my kids. In the afternoon, I take a nap with my wife, and when evening comes, I join my buddies in the village for a drink. We play guitar, sing, and dance throughout the night." The businessman offered a suggestion to the fisherman. "I have a PhD in business management. I could help you become a more successful person. From now on, you should spend more time at sea and try to catch as many fish as possible. When you have saved enough money, you could buy a bigger boat and catch even more fish. Soon, you will be able to afford to buy more boats, set up your own company, your own production plant for canned food and distribution network. By then, you will have moved out of this village into Sao Paulo, where you can set up HQ to manage your other branches." The fisherman continues, "And after that?" The businessman laughs heartily. After that, you can live like a king in your own house, and when the time is right, you can go public and float your shares in the stock exchange, and you will be rich. And the fisherman says, after that? Businessman says, after that, you can finally retire. You can move to a house by the fishing village. You can wake up early in the morning. You can catch a few fish, then return home to play with the kids, have a nice afternoon nap with your wife. And when evening comes, you can join your buddies for a drink, play the guitar, sing and dance through the night. The fisherman was puzzled. Isn't that what I'm doing now? And of course, the moral to the story, know what really matters in life. Define your core values. You might find that the things that are really connected to your heart are much closer than you think. We all have these things that we talk about doing someday. I mean, this is one of them for me. I talked about this for years. Oh, I'd love to just to do the series of talks. Originally, I was thinking 6. Thank God I talked myself down to 4. 6. My God. But we all have stuff. You know, someday I'm going to do that. Someday I'm going to do this. And last year, I just decided that someday is today. And I'm going to look at these things that I'm putting off, because I'm 58. I don't know how much. My dad died when he was 71. I might only have 13 more years. When am I going to get to him? There is only one time we can control. Right now. Oh, it's gone. Now was 5 seconds ago. So until you take the things that you're putting off for someday and you use the power of will by saying, I will do that speaker series in January and February of next year. I will have that book written in 2018. You have to make someday today, and you have to know what's really important. Because if you pull a someday off the shelf and you say, I will, and it doesn't light a fire, you have no passion, you just kind of go, no, I won't. It's not really anything that stirs your soul. Get rid of it. Keep it off the someday shelf, because you're not doing it. When you pull the thing off and you go, I will do that speaker series in January of next year, and then you get excited and you start thinking about it and you put it on Facebook and you're like, oh shit, I'm committed. And you know, I mean, it takes a life of its own, and it'll never get done until you change your attitude about it and set a time. Let's just say, I'm doing it. I also talked a lot about my own personal story that first week. I'm a recovering alcoholic, recovering drug addict. There was a good period of time in my life where I really wasn't sure if I wanted to live or not. I'd lock the door to my little apartment. I lived in the Acorn Apartments in Oshkosh, $180 a month. This god-awful little place, and it's just one room and a bathroom. And just take the phone off the hook before cell phones. Pull the shades down and lay in bed and wonder if I wanted to keep living. And I just lived in a way that I really let the part of me that did not know God take over. And that is where, when I finally, through a crazy series of events, got to the point where I quit drinking, I came up with the analogy for the feed your angel concept, which is, you know, the same thing that we all know of. There's an angel on one shoulder, there's a devil on the other. But what I really felt was that I had such baggage from what I had been telling myself and how I felt about myself that quitting drinking was the easy part. Changing my thoughts about who I was the hard part. Because I had a 300-pound demon, and I did not know my angel. And so I could fight the demon, and it will kill you if you try to do that. Or you can just start trying to look for what might be good in your life. And you have to look within. So for 7 years, I'd get up early, read, meditate. I was really good at meditation back then, I mean really. And then I was going to AA meetings every week for 7 years before I even felt like it was somewhat even. Because I had such a bad self-image. Now, people who knew me probably didn't think that. In fact, most people that knew me probably thought I was really into myself. People might think that today, I don't know. But we've talked about it before, where a lot of times that image is given by people who are extremely insecure. They come off like they're full of themselves because they don't know any other way to present themselves. And certainly it's rampant in the musician network. Musicians are an insecure lot, and I was no exception. But that was week 1. Story of the Fisherman. Take your some days off the shelf, use the power of will, and feed your angel, which is basically within ourselves and within every little network we have, there's kind of an angel-devil continuum. So in our families, you know, like you have your own little thing going on, you know, and one of them gets more control than the other, kind of, and, you know, with some work, I think now I've probably got it the other way, but a little bit. But some days, man, you know, like you wake up and just something happens, and you know, it's unusual how fast we can let the demon on the other shoulder take over our thought patterns with just a couple negative things happen during the day. But then you go to your family. I mean, every family unit kind of has a, you know, an angel-devil thing going too. In every little group you're in, and every little, you know, I mean, some families are pretty negative, you know, and you know, it's hard to go to a family event because, oh God, Uncle Ed's going to be, and you know, oh, he's just going to go on and can't stand it. You know, just try to act from love instead of reacting from fear and anger. And there's too much anger. Just look at the social media feeds. It's ridiculous. So week 2, fast mind, slow mind, power of surrender. Week 2 was the week where I talked about how incredible it is that we're even here. And that, what are the odds that any one of us are here at all? I know the odds. 1 in 10 to the 2,650,000th power. 1 in 10 followed by 2,650,000 zeros chance that any of us are alive. But here we are. It's unbelievable that we're here at all. So who are we? We're not our thoughts, we're not our bodies. Who we are is behind the thoughts. We're the one who sees. We're the slow mind. The slow mind is that part of you, that seat of you behind the narrator. Our fast mind is the part that never shuts up. That is the part that if you take that part that has conversations with itself, that argues with itself. Man, you know, this spaghetti sauce looks like something I might want to try. Oh, no, you're not going to try that. You know, you took you 15 years to find ragu. You know, and you like ragu, and ragu is the spaghetti, but this one's cheaper, and you know, and so you have, you know, so if you take your fast mind out of your head and put it on your couch, and you're sitting there, and you listen to the conversations that this person on your couch is having, you have a lunatic on your couch. And you are going to slide over because that person is nuts. And that person is often who we allow to run our lives. Because we never take the time to know the person behind that person, which is the part of us that's connected to God and love. And you can't let the lunatic run the asylum. You need to connect with your slow mind. And when you do, you start to get in touch with your instincts. Because I'll tell you, I had no instincts when I quit drinking. Like when I had decisions to make, it was very hard for me to know. Like sometimes you get that feeling that you just know this is right. You know, something might be presented to you and it all might seem absolutely, your head is going, this is just not, but inside you go, this just feels right. Well, I didn't have that part of me when I quit drinking, because I just don't think I was in touch with the part of me that ran my instinct, which is the slow mind, which is your heart. It's where your passions lie. And if you don't connect with that part of yourself, you can die with your music still in you. Because you never gave it a chance. So it was fast mind, slow mind, power of surrender, week 2. Week 3 was fitness, mind-body connection, power of thoughts. And it started when I opened up the book of questions, you know, because I had myself surrounded, right? You know, all my stuff, and I'm like, got all these things. I got to write about mind-body connection and fitness. And I'm like, all right, I'm just opening the book of questions to see what questions it has for me today. Book of questions is just, I'm telling you, you open it, every day you're going to read a question and go, weird question. But it gets you thinking, you know. So the question on the day I was going to write about fitness was, would you like to have a high-definition nude image of yourself in your physical prime? And if not, do you think that you might someday wish you could have one? It still creeps me out. I don't even know what to say about that, but that's how I started that week. And it did get me thinking about what was my physical prime. And it got me thinking about what did I think about myself when I was in my physical prime. Because I could look back now and go, wow, man, I was in my physical prime. I was doing pretty good. At 42, I used to lift weights a lot. I think that was maybe one of the years where I was, you know, close. In my 20s, you know, I was drinking all the time. I had one guy tell me, you know, you're only 27? I thought you were at least 35. Whoa, that made me feel good. So, you know, what was my physical prime and how did I feel about myself? And I'm pretty sure if I could find the day that I was at my physical prime, inside I was telling myself I'm fat. I mean, I'm pretty sure I had a low self-esteem about my body, you know. Because that is how we default. We default to the negative. Why do we default to the negative? Because we haven't learned to focus on the positive. And so this is why I'm constantly, Laurie would tell you, when I read self-help and spiritual all the time. That's all I read. Biographies of people who did amazing things. Our bodies can influence our thoughts. And the example I gave was, if I tie you to a chair and stab you in the leg, you know, the body is going to influence your thoughts. You'll be like, oh man, that hurts. Our thoughts can influence our bodies. You listen to music, You know, something that's just fantastic, and you get goosebumps. Your thoughts can influence your body. So what we wind up doing is we have this push-pull relationship with our own bodies, where we have to hit a bottom before we actually take action. It's why? Why can't we just be healthy? Because that's just not the American way. You know, we gotta hit a bottom, or just, you know, see somebody in our lives who gets sick, and you think, oh man, I better change what I'm doing. And you make changes, and you get a little, you see some, you know, success, and through it all, I've never been satisfied. All the yo-yo things and all inside, I'm like, yeah, I'm better, but I gave the example of I hit 155 pounds at the end of 2009. I mean, I got on the scale, I was like 155. So first thing was fantastic. That is just, I mean, wow. Second thought, I still got a ways to go. Got to lose another 10 pounds. And, you know, and I'm like, I got the bump. I hate the bump. So maybe, instead of never being satisfied, if we were just satisfied first and said, you know, this is where I am. I'm satisfied. I can maybe do better. But just be satisfied with where you are. You know, it's part of the other thing that I mentioned in my core values list, which I think is over here. Kind of the prosperity thing, where it's like, how much is enough? I never think anything is enough. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I need more. You know. But the reality is, we're in America. You know, we have more than most people in this world. We have more than enough. We think we don't. Why? Maybe we just need to be satisfied first. And of course, we ended the 4-part series with tonight's talk on core values, defining what's important, looking within. The bottom line through all of these talks is this: get in touch with the part of you that sits behind your thoughts. The more you know that part of you where love resides, where you connect with God, that part that is timeless and ageless, the more in tune you'll be with what's truly important to you. The fact that you're even here is a miracle. Did God put you here to not follow your heart? To shelf all your somedays without ever getting to do them? Was that God's purpose? Reconnect with the things that stir your soul. Pull your somedays off the shelf, because someday is today. Today is the only time we can control, right now, right this second, and it's gone. Your tomorrows will be a collection of your todays. So live with passion. Love freely. Open up to the possibilities laid before you. So when you get to the end, you can say, I have no regrets. The shelf that held my somedays is bare. I lived with integrity, and made a positive difference in the lives of those around me. And I led a life of significance. And that's it for tonight. And so thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.